I'm Gab, he's Jules. Blue skies over West London because Chelsea have qualified for the Champions
Yes,
League
well
in England.
done.
Big ups to all the people left it late. Chelsea, Juventus in Serie A.
Yeah.
Newcastle, despite losing at home.
Yeah.
Manchester City. But you know who hasn't? Aston Villa.
Yeah.
And
They're not happy.
we're going to start with that because Aston Villa are away at Old Trafford and Newcastle are home to Everton. We look at these two games together, and you figured Everton, nothing left to play for. Yeah. Carlos Alcaraz on the pitch. It's going to be an absolute dawdle. But no, Alcaraz scores. Newcastle lose. Villa play United at Old Trafford. And
just need a draw then.
All they need is a draw.
It is a draw.
And I'm going to go straight to the incident because Emery Martinez gets himself stupidly sent off at the end of the first half. And then there's an incident where Altay Bayindir, he doesn't gather the ball properly with both hands. I don't know what he's thinking. It's a brain fart. Morgan Rogers punches on him, kicks the button, kind of nips the ball away and scores, except he doesn't because the referee, a guy named Thomas Bremmel, blows the whistle before that. Now, Unai Emery absolutely loses it on the sideline. I mean, I like to make fun because I think he looks funny and talks funny and so on. I believe the guy's brilliant. I shouldn't be doing that. But he absolutely loses it. They've written a formal complaint to the Premier League about the fact that they're appointing somebody too inexperienced. He supposedly apologized after the game, saying he shouldn't have blown his whistle so soon. The fact that he blew the whistle meant VAR could not intervene, Jules.
Yeah.
Is this how they lost the Champions League?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad mistake for sure from the referee, and they still would have had to play 20 minutes with 10 men against 11, and United might have scored one, maybe two, so we don't know. But that goal would have made a big difference for them, and this is costing them potentially the Champions League, £100 million, everything that comes with it. If they look back at the season, there are other key moments, of course, of the season where you didn't score, you conceded, of course, but this one would have been really painful, I think, because with 10 men as well, they didn't play well. Let's put it out. Let's start with that, because even at 11 against 11, they were terrible. Not what I expected from Aston Villa. They were so underwhelming against the United team that obviously 3 days before lost the Europa League in a very bad way. So you thought Villa would be on the front foot. They go there, they will win. They had won 89 in the league or something like that. They were in great form, and yet they, to start with, played so poorly, could not do three passes together. So it's also on them.
We can't emphasize how poorly they played. And I want to do two things. I mean, because sometimes more than one thing can be true. Yes, the guy got it badly wrong. Maybe, and what's infuriating is that it's not like he misjudged it. He made a technical error. He should have waited to whistle, right? That's fine. Equally, you know what the XG was at the time that Roger scored? It was 1.54 to 0.07.
Yeah, they had nothing.
They had absolutely nothing. And secondly, if you really want to go and talk about stupid mental errors out of nowhere, you need to have a talk with your goalkeeper, Emery Martinez.
Yeah, that was stupid, completely stupid. I mean, it's a bad pass from Cash, but then for him to come out like that, barge into Højlund, even try to argue that there was no red card, and the ball goes away from goal, but the way he bumps into him is ridiculous.
It's an obvious straight red. I mean, it looked like something from you might see in American
ice hockey.
football.
I think it was ice hockey. You
Yes,
know when they just go for it on purpose.
Straight from the NHL. We're going to get back to this and also talk about how United played well, and Ruben Amorim felt the need to apologize at the end. Flip it over to Newcastle and Everton. Did Newcastle take this a little bit lightly?
I don't know, or maybe they were a bit nervous because although it was in their own hands, they win, they're through, they're top five. They just looked so bad. Yeah. I just don't know what happened. The strongest team, pretty much. I don't like this back three. We've said it before, I think.
I think when Joe Linton's not there, he feels the need to do this.
Yeah, maybe of that. Also, there's no Trippier is not fit, so there's no fullbacks apart from Kraft. So you play Murphy as a kind of wing back and Livramento the other side, and that's it. I think that's more the reason why. But that, I don't think it's good for them, and they were terrible from start to finish.
Yeah, it's really weird. We've debated this so long. I mean, the rule of thumb is if you don't need the points and you don't have anything to play for, you tend to lose, or sometimes the opposite happens. You have no pressure whatsoever, and you turn in the kind of performance that Everton did. All right, Jules, let's stick to this game. But first, overall, the Newcastle season, because I don't always want to gloss over the fact they lost. Look, let's face it. We talk about, people are like, oh, you talk about the big six and Real Madrid and Barcelona. Yeah, because we're running a business here. This is what people want to hear about. But I think we also want to give credit. It's not like Newcastle are a small club, but certainly they do not have the budget. And they have, or they do have the money,
budget,
but they try to stay within financial parameters. I did not think going into this season, given the signings they made in the summer, I don't think anybody, I certainly didn't have them finishing top 4, top 5. Did you? And winning a trophy?
No. I mean, winning the trophy and top 5 finish is one of the greatest seasons in history, really, let's be honest here. Considering where they were last season, and they obviously had problems with suspensions and injuries and the Champions League, which took a lot of their energy and their focus and their priorities. So probably the truth was a bit in between the season they had before to qualify them for the Champions League. That was amazing. The one last season that was not so good. And they probably are also where they are because United and Spurs and teams like that didn't perform at the level that they should have performed, even Aston Villa to a certain extent. So, but credit to them, an incredible season.
I was thinking about them, and look, I tendentially would agree with you, right? That obviously Spurs and United screwed the pooch and Villa. But when I wonder, like I said, I am nothing against Eddie Howe as a person, as a manager. He never struck me as an elite manager. But when you do this 2 years out of 3 and you win a trophy along the way, and I look at these players and I think to myself, these guys are really, really good. Like those 3 teams that you mentioned, Villa, Spurs, and United, Bruno Guimaraes, I'm assuming, would walk into all of them, right? Isak obviously would walk into all of them. Tonali, with the season he's had,
I agree,
would walk into all of them.
Yeah.
A fit pre-injury Botman would probably walk into all of them.
Yeah, Gordon at his best.
Anthony Gordon is left. So in the end, even the goalkeeper situation. I mean, Augie, for example, is always talking about Newcastle need to replace Nick Pope. Okay, fine. But Pope versus Onana or Uncle Vic?
Yeah,
I don't
Martinez
know.
Even,
Well, I mean, Martinez.
Yeah, but what we saw.
But what we saw, So they actually are good players too. So I think there is a position where they have to be smart this summer, but I think they can build on it and be back in the Champions League again next year.
Yeah.
And if somebody falters or whatever, maybe even compete. It'll be really interesting how they play, how this summer plays out. Going back to Villa and United, we've seen this from Villa. We've seen situations where they look passive and then they suddenly turn it on. And I cannot wrap my head around, though, the psychology of this game. United are coming off the back of this huge disappointment, right? You can say, well, they're at home and they want to leave a good memory for the fans. I mean, nothing would leave a good memory for the fans after this United season, even at home. The fans went in expecting yet another home defeat.
Yeah.
This really was a case of Villa being really, really poor, continually giving the ball away.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Really, again, nerves maybe, because Villa had to win and hope that other results would go their way too. So it was not in their own hands. But I just don't know how they were so bad, really, because he was the strongest team too. It's not like if you say, okay, there was no Watkins and no Rodgers and no Camara,
no Rashford, and no that's only
but this is the strongest team that they have right now, really. And for them to be so bad, you mentioned the XG earlier, but even just not 3 passes together, just nothing, sloppy, bad passes, bad touches everywhere, just not up for it. But how can you not be up for it when Champions League is on the line? If you have nothing to play for and you're not up for it, you're already thinking about your holidays. Okay, no problem. But no, in this case, I was so disappointed.
I mean, this brings me to Emery, because I think we always praise him for, rightly so, for his tactical preparation, how, they very rarely get out. He very rarely gets out-tacticked in game, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And part of it is getting your players ready. In this game, the bottom just fell out to a degree that I didn't. I don't think I've seen from. I mean, I'm sure it's happened before with Emery, but like I don't remember happening with Emery. They've had bad performances,
Yeah.
but not like this against a team in these conditions.
Yeah. 15th. Yeah. Definitely not.
Is there a broader issue here? Because I project forward, and you were in financial difficulty early in the season. You know that you've got issues with PSR and financial sustainability.
Yeah.
You took Asensio, you let Duran go, but that's not going to fix you in perpetuity, right? You were ready to let Watkins grow at a certain price, which Arsenal eventually didn't meet. You took Asensio and Rashford on loan, and Disasi, and presumably because you couldn't find or didn't want to find permanent signings for those roles.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're looking at a shortfall of 60, 70 million. Do you think this plays into Emery's head in his reaction?
Yeah, I think it's a massive blow for them not to have made it to the Champions League again. And the Champions League this season will bring them a lot of money because they went to the quarterfinals, they won games in the league phase. So this is maybe, I don't know how much they had budgeted for this Champions League campaign, but I would suspect it's more than what they've budgeted in the first place. So this is good for them, but what they're missing out on not qualifying for the Champions League next season, and by the way, they will play in the Europa League, which is nowhere near. It's not even if the Europa League was 50% of what you get in the Champions League, so you would be kind of okay-ish. It's nowhere near compared to what you would get in the Champions League. So the shortfall, as you said, Gabby, is massive.
It varies.
And then what do you do with your transfers then? Because you
Yeah.
wanted to keep Rashford and Asensio. Now there's no Champions League. Those guys play Champions League football every season, and probably same for the players that you would want to sign.
Yeah. So just to put this in context of the shortfall, if you have it, I mean, it varies on different things because obviously different clubs make different amounts of revenue from their home European dates and so on. But assuming they had budgeted to make the round of 16 of the Champions League, which is what you would normally budget for, versus making maybe the quarterfinals of the Europa League, the difference is going to be at least 60 to 70 million.
Yeah.
And that is a lot. That's like going to be 15% of your budget, right? Of your revenue for the season. That said, none of this would have happened if Newcastle had beaten Everton. So it's not as if they could have gone into the final day. I mean, like for the last month or so, they knew they were chasing. They knew it was going to take things to fall their way. So I generally don't know. I wonder if you look at it now, like, all right, do I sacrifice a big asset and try to rebuild that way? And by sacrificing a big asset, it could be Watkins, sure, but I don't know how much Watkins is going to bring, given that he's pushing 30 now. I'm a big Onana guy. You're a big Kamara guy.
Yeah.
But I feel with Onana, there's so much more upside. With Kamara, he's such an integral part of what they do.
Yeah.
People have talked about Emmy maybe going.
Yeah, Martinez going. I think Kamara hasn't extended yet his contract. So they are, I think, ready to make him a massive offer to stay. But he's obviously attracted a lot of interest from other clubs because he's been so good since coming back from his injury. I just don't know how much this changes their plans and Emery's plans and Emery's people, because this is Emery's club now and he's got his people everywhere, pretty much in every floor of the building. I don't know, but where I agree with you as well, Gabby, is that this is on him a lot. And you look at it, if they'd finished top 5 plus FA Cup semi-final plus Champions League quarter-final, this is a very good season. Missing out on Champions League and also on an FA Cup final, like the way they did against Palace, because the Palace game is very similar to this United game for Villa. Another back five against you. You don't know what to do. You're terrible against back fives. You struggle. And then you lose both games, the Villa Crystal Palace at Wembley and the United Villa at Old Trafford on Sunday, the two biggest games of your season, because the Champions League quarterfinal against PSG is still a long shot. But those two games, Villa could have won against Palace at Wembley in the semi-final of the Cup and this one against United to qualify for Champions League next season. And they were just dominated completely from start to finish by those two teams that play with a back five, and Emery never found a way. So even for him, I think it's a big summer.
All right, we talk about, you might have, casual listeners might be aware, we talk about United all the freaking time. We don't need to spend too much time on them, but it is interesting. Ruben Amorim addressed the crowd after the game, and he apologized and said that better things were to come. Part of me wonders if this was kind of like a reaction to what he said last time around when he said, oh, well, if we don't improve, I'm going to leave and I won't want any compensation. As a journalist, as somebody who follows the media, I love the fact that he talks all the time. Some people might say, maybe you talk a little too much. Maybe it's time to park it for a while.
Let's put it that way, yeah.
And wait for the results to improve.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, all managers for the last home game of the season have a little word to the crowd on the mic.
You don't need to apologize.
Maybe you don't need to apologize. I thought, again, there was a lot of I and a lot of me, even in his apologies. He was like, you are disappointed in me. And then the players came after that, where he could easily have said, you disappointed in us as a whole, all of us here. And it's just, I don't know, it's a lot about him. He makes it a lot about him, a lot to him, a lot on him, and I, and me, and this. And I'm just not sure right now it was the right way. But hey, he apologized.
We're delving into media strategy here, to be honest, because the counter argument could be, like, if you were here, you would say, Jules, my friend, the reason I make it about me is so that people can criticize me because I am the face of the club. I am the reason we're playing the system. I don't want them to go and criticize Lenny or Amad Diallo or my players to get them down. I will protect my players, make it about me. I mean, Jose Mourinho, it's a Mourinho school.
But that was it was a different time. Mourinho school. It was a different time.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you're a PR professional who could advise Amorim, and maybe we're wrong. Maybe you know what's best. Please reach out to us on social media.